The blood on her apron was still warm when Sophia Russo pushed through the wrong door. 6 men sat around a table covered in cash, weapons, and plastic-wrapped packages. The silver-haired man at the head looked up slowly, his steel-grey eyes locking onto hers. "Close the door behind you," he said calmly. Sophia's hands shook as she obeyed, still holding her tray of espressos. One of the men reached for his jacket, but the silver-haired man raised a hand, stopping him. "What's your name?" "Sophia Russo. I've worked here 3 years. I don't know anything. I've never seen—" "You just saw everything." He gestured to the empty chair beside him. "Sit down. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, subscribe and comment where you're watching from." Sophia sat, heart hammering. The man studied her with unsettling calm. "I'm Antonio Marcelli. You just became a problem." "I won't say anything, I swear." "Everyone says that. Then they talk." He leaned back. "Why aren't you crying, begging?" "Would it help?" A slight smile crossed his face. "No, but most try anyway." "Then why waste time?" Antonio stood and walked to the window. "How old are you?" 26. "Family?" "No one." He turned back. "You remind me of someone who didn't belong in this world but ended up here anyway." He paused. "2 choices. First, you disappear. Permanently, quick, clean. Second, you come with me now, do exactly what I say. You become someone else, someone my enemies can't find. Why would you offer that? My instincts say you're not a threat, just unlucky. But if you betray me, what happens will make the first option look merciful. Understand?" Sophia weighed her options. At least one offered tomorrow. "I understand." "Then we leave now. Don't go home, don't call anyone." Sophia Russo becomes a ghost. He turned to his men. "Marco, clean this place. Erase the footage. Luca, get the car. Airport." "Airport?" Sophia's voice cracked. "Paris. My enemies control New York, not Paris. You'll be safe there while I handle this." "I don't have a passport." "You will in 3 hours." He moved to the door. Hesitation kills in this world. They left through the back entrance. Sophia caught her reflection in a mirror, a waitress in a blood-stained apron being led into a Mercedes by a man who controlled life and death. Behind her, everything she knew vanished. In the car, Antonio made rapid calls in Italian. When finished, he looked at her. "Last chance to change your mind." Sophia thought about her tiny apartment, minimum wage survival, endless struggling. "I'm not changing my mind." He handed her an envelope. $5,000. When we land, you get new documents, an apartment, instructions. Follow them exactly. She stared at the cash. "Why are you doing this?" "Because someone once gave me a choice instead of pulling the trigger. It changed everything. Maybe I'm paying that forward." He looked out at the passing city. "Your old life is over. What happens next depends on whether you can survive where trust is currency and mistakes are fatal." The private jet lifted off, leaving New York behind. Sophia sat in luxury she'd never experienced, watching Antonio work on his laptop. A flight attendant brought food. "Eat," Antonio said without looking up. "Long night ahead." Sophia picked at the pasta mechanically. Every few minutes she glanced at Antonio, trying to understand this man who saved instead of killed. "You're wondering if you made the right choice," he said. "Can you read minds?" "I read people. It's how I stay alive." He closed the laptop and poured whiskey. "Ask your questions. What exactly do you do?" "Careful. Even on a private plane, words matter." He sipped his drink. "I manage business interests some find objectionable. Import-export, real estate, financial services." "That's not an answer. It's the only one you get." His tone closed the subject. "What about you? How does a smart woman end up serving coffee for 3 years?" "Who says I'm smart?" You're alive. That makes you smarter than most who stumble into my world. He studied her. Rough childhood, abusive father, fought your way out, tried school, then life happened, bills, bad luck. Suddenly you're stuck surviving. Sophia's jaw tightened. Close enough. It always is. The American dream is beautiful until you realize it's rigged. He swirled his whiskey. That's why people like me exist. We offer alternatives. Is that how you justify it? His eyes hardened. I don't justify anything. I am what I am. Right now, I'm the reason you're flying first class instead of floating in the Hudson. Save the judgments. Silence settled until Sophia spoke again. What happens in Paris? You stay in my apartment in the Marais. Secure, discreet. You'll get a French passport under a new name. For the next few months, you're a graduate student studying art history at the Sorbonne. I don't know art history. Learn. There's a library at the apartment. He pulled out a folder. Your new identity. Study it. Memorize it. Become it. Sophia opened it. Inside was a complete life. Claire Martin, birth date, education, family background, hobbies. A perfect fiction. Who was she? No one. But she needs to be real enough to pass scrutiny. Antonio stood at the window. The Calabrese family has eyes everywhere. If they find you, they'll use you against me. What you saw tonight, that meeting was supposed to finalize a truce. Someone leaked information. Someone wanted witnesses. You think I was set up? Nothing in my world happens by accident. He faced her. I need time to find who betrayed me. You need to be somewhere they can't reach. Once it's safe, I'll bring you back or set you up somewhere new. Your choice. And if it's never safe, then learn to love French wine. He returned to his seat. Get rest. We land in 6 hours. Tomorrow your education begins. In what? Survival. The only subject that matters. Sophia curled under a blanket, exhausted but unable to sleep. She watched Antonio through half-closed eyes, his face illuminated by the laptop's glow. He looked tired, not physically, but with a weariness that came from carrying too many secrets. She dozed and woke to Antonio shaking her shoulder. We're descending. Paris emerged through the windows, the Eiffel Tower lit like a beacon, the Seine winding through the city, endless lights spreading out, nothing like New York, like a dream. Beautiful, isn't it? Antonio said. I bought property here 20 years ago. Sometimes I think about retiring, opening a cafe, living normally. Why don't you? Because men like me don't retire. We die or disappear, and disappearing is harder than it sounds. A black car waited on the tarmac. 2 men in suits stood beside it, nodding as Antonio approached. Bonjour, Monsieur Marcelli. Bonjour, Claude. Everything ready? Oui, comme toujours. They drove through Paris at 4 a.m. Empty streets, beautiful architecture, shuttered cafes. Finally, they stopped at a building with a red door. Antonio led her up 3 flights to an apartment that took her breath away. High ceilings, huge windows overlooking a courtyard. This is incredible, Sophia whispered. It belonged to my wife's aunt. She died 5 years ago. He opened the refrigerator. Stocked, cash in the drawer, enough for months. Passport arrives tomorrow. Questions? Why are you being so kind? Antonio's mask slipped slightly. 30 years ago, I was washing dishes in Sicily when a territorial dispute turned into a bloodbath. I was 17, wrong place, wrong time. Don Vittorio could have killed me. Instead, he gave me a choice, join his family or leave Italy. I chose to stay. That choice made me who I am. So this is about him? This is about understanding that small choices have big consequences. That waitress might become something important or just live quietly in Paris. Either way, it's her choice. That's more than most get. He moved to the door. There's a phone in the bedroom, 1 number programmed. Call only for real emergencies. Death, police, immediate danger. Understand? I understand. Marie comes at noon. Trust her. Do what she says. He looked back. Welcome to your new life. Try not to waste it. The door closed. Sophia stood alone as dawn broke over Paris. She walked to the window and looked down at an old man setting up cafe chairs. Everything felt surreal. Her old phone buzzed. A text from her roommate. "Where are you?" Sophia stared at it, then removed the battery. Sophia Russo needed to disappear. The message would go unanswered. She made espresso using the Italian machine. Perfect, rich, strong, exactly what she needed. She carried it to the window and watched Paris wake. Somewhere in this city, Antonio was managing his empire. Somewhere in New York, dangerous men were hunting a waitress who'd seen too much. But here, Sophia Russo, or Claire Martin, was safe. She had a new chance, a new city, a new life. All she had to do was survive long enough to figure out what that life might be. She raised her espresso to the rising sun, a silent toast to survival, to impossible choices, to the strange mercy of a man who killed for a living but chose to save one unlucky waitress. As Paris came alive below, cafe opening, people walking dogs, street sweeper moving down cobblestones, Sophia felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Marie Dubois arrived precisely at noon, carrying a leather bag and wearing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. 50-ish, elegantly dressed, grey-bobbed hair, confident posture. "Claire Martin?" she asked in accented English. "Yes." Marie swept in, assessing everything with quick glances. "First lesson, when someone uses your cover name, respond immediately. Hesitation kills. Again, who are you?" "Claire Martin." Louder, with confidence. "I'm Claire Martin. Better. Now, your story." "Where were you born?" "Lyon, French mother, American father. They divorced when I was 12. I went to Boston with him." "Education?" "Bachelor's in art history from Boston University, currently pursuing graduate studies at the Sorbonne, Renaissance art specialization." Marie nodded. "You studied the file, good, but knowing facts isn't enough. You need to feel them. If I ask about your Lyon childhood home, what do you see?" Claire closed her eyes, uncertain. "I'm not sure." "Then let me help. You lived in Croix-Rousse, 4th floor, blue shutters, balcony where your mother grew herbs, rosemary, thyme, basil, Saturday mornings at the market with her picking fresh bread, pain au noix, walnut bread. The baker, Monsieur Fournier, always gave you chocolate." The details were so specific, Claire could almost smell the bread. "How do you know this?" "It's my childhood, or close enough. Antonio asked me to create a background you could inhabit. So I gave you pieces of my life mixed with fiction." Marie pulled out a notebook. "We'll spend days building your memories, real enough that if questioned you won't think, you'll just know." They worked through the afternoon. Favorite teachers, childhood friends, embarrassing moments, first loves, every detail carefully constructed. "Now, French," Marie said, switching languages. "You know basics?" "Un peu. High school." "Not enough." A graduate student who can't speak fluent French raises suspicions. We start with conversational phrases. She pulled out flashcards. "Repeat, je m'appelle Claire Martin. Je m'appelle Claire Martin." Again, pronounce the R from your throat, like a soft growl. They worked for hours, Marie patient but demanding. When pronunciation was wrong, they repeated until perfect. Exhausting, but Claire was grateful for the distraction. Around 7, Marie ordered food, roast chicken, green beans, crusty bread. They ate at the small table. "May I ask something?" Claire said. "You can ask. I may not answer." "What do you do for Antonio?" Marie smiled. "I facilitate things. Someone needs a passport, I know people. Someone needs to disappear, I know where. Someone needs information, I have sources. Paris is complicated. It helps to have someone who understands its secrets. And he saved your life. In a manner of speaking, my late husband made poor financial decisions, gambling debts to dangerous people. When he died, those debts became mine. Antonio bought them, told me I could work off what was owed. 15 years ago. Technically, I've repaid him 10 times over. But I stay because the work is interesting, and loyalty to Antonio is worth more than money. Do you trust him? Marie considered carefully. Antonio is complicated, generous and ruthless in the same breath. His own code, his own logic. Do I trust him to keep his word? Yes, tell the truth? Sometimes. With my life? Absolutely. She cleared dishes. Tomorrow a photographer comes for your passport photo. Day after you receive documents. Passport, student ID, library card, credit card. You'll also get a monthly stipend. Enough to live on, nothing extravagant. What does Antonio expect in return? Nothing, as far as I know. You stay here, study your cover, learn French, stay off radar. He'll contact you when it's safe to make decisions about your future. And if it's never safe? Marie's expression softened. Then you learn to be Claire Martin for real. There are worse fates. Paris is beautiful. The food is excellent. If you embrace it, you might even find happiness. After Marie left, Claire wandered restlessly. Books beckoned. Art history texts, novels in French and English, poetry. She pulled out Baudelaire, but the French was too dense. Instead, she opened her new laptop and researched Renaissance art. If she was going to be a graduate student, she might as well know her subject. She lost herself in images of Botticelli, Michelangelo, Leonardo, the beauty, the skill, the way artists centuries ago captured human emotion perfectly. Hours passed before she realized how late it was. Paris outside had transformed into a sea of lights, romantic and mysterious. She stood at the window watching couples walk hand in hand, hearing laughter from a nearby bistro. Her emergency phone sat on the bedside table, single contact labeled emergency. She picked it up, staring. She wanted to thank Antonio, tell him she was okay, ask questions, but he'd been clear, emergencies only. She sent a text. Is saying thank you an emergency? Seconds later, only if you need someone to save you from gratitude. How's Paris? Overwhelming, beautiful, strange. That sounds right. Marie treating you well. She's terrifying. Good. That means she likes you. Get rest. Tomorrow starts your real education. Claire set the phone down, surprised. She'd expected Antonio to be distant, formal, but his messages felt almost human. She climbed into the enormous bed, pulling the soft duvet around her. Through the window, the Eiffel Tower lit against the night sky. 24 hours ago, she'd been a waitress in the Bronx. Now she was Claire Martin, graduate student living in a beautiful Paris apartment, her old life erased. She should have been terrified. Part of her was. But another part, the part that had always dreamed of something more, felt alive in a way she'd never experienced. Tomorrow she'd take her passport photo. Tomorrow she'd study more French. Tomorrow she'd continue becoming someone new. But tonight, she was just a woman in Paris, safe and warm and impossibly lucky. She fell asleep to distant music and church bells, dreaming of art galleries and cobblestone streets and a silver-haired man who'd chosen mercy over murder. 3 weeks passed in a blur of French lessons and memorized histories. Marie came daily, drilling Claire on phrases, cultural references, Parisian social dynamics. The passport arrived, perfect, indistinguishable from real. "You're doing well," Marie said one afternoon. "Your accent is improving, less American every day." "Is that good?" "Essential. You spent early childhood in Lyon. A hint of French influence makes the cover believable." She pulled out an envelope. Antonio sent this. Inside was a credit card in Claire Martin's name and a note. Time to become a real graduate student. The Sorbonne offers excellent lectures on Renaissance art, Thursday afternoons in Amphithéâtre Richelieu. You should attend. He wants me to actually go. The best covers include real elements. If anyone investigates, they'll find attendance records, maybe a professor who remembers you. It's called creating depth. Marie checked her watch. Be careful at the university. Don't make friends, don't share personal information, don't attract attention. You're there to establish presence, nothing more. Thursday came. Claire dressed carefully. Jeans, simple sweater, comfortable boots. She looked like any other graduate student. The lecture hall was packed. Claire found a seat near the back. Professor Dr. Beaumont was passionate and articulate, discussing Botticelli's Birth of Venus with such enthusiasm that even Claire, still struggling with French, found herself captivated. After the lecture, students gathered in groups. Claire started to leave when someone tapped her shoulder. "Excuse me, but you're American, yes?" Claire turned to find a young man with dark, curly hair and an eager smile. "I am." "I thought so. I heard you taking notes in English. I'm Lucas, from London, here studying art restoration. Nice to meet another Anglo." Everything Marie taught her screamed to disengage, but Lucas seemed harmless. "Claire, I'm focusing on Renaissance art." "Brilliant! Same area. We should grab coffee sometime, compare notes." "Maybe. I'm pretty busy." "Well, if you change your mind." He pulled out a business card. "Drop me a line." Claire took the card and excused herself. Walking back toward the Marais, she felt both exhilarated and anxious. The lecture had been wonderful, but Lucas's approach reminded her she was living a lie. When she got home, her phone was flashing. "Antonio, how was the lecture?" "Good. Professor Beaumont is brilliant." "She is. I've attended several of her presentations. Did you speak to anyone?" Claire hesitated, then chose honesty. "A British student named Lucas. He was friendly, wanted coffee. I put him off." "Good instinct. But if he persists, don't be completely cold. A graduate student with no friends raises more questions than one with a few casual acquaintances. Keep boundaries clear." "That seems contradictory." "Welcome to my world. Everything is contradictory. The trick is knowing which contradictions keep you alive." Over the following weeks, Claire fell into routine. Lectures on Thursdays, French lessons with Marie 3 times weekly, long hours studying. She attended more lectures, getting comfortable with the university. Lucas appeared occasionally, always friendly, always respectful. They'd have quick coffees after lectures, discussing art, nothing personal. Marie approved. "He's good cover. Fellow student, casual friendship, no romance. Makes you seem normal." "I am normal." "No, you're not. Normal people don't have their existence manufactured by a mob boss. But we can make you appear normal." One evening in early December, as Christmas decorations appeared throughout Paris, Claire received an unexpected call. "Hello? It's Antonio. We need to talk. Are you free tomorrow afternoon?" "I have a lecture, but..." "Skip it. Meet me at the Musée Rodin at 2, the sculpture garden. Come alone." He hung up. Claire stared at the phone, anxiety flooding through her. In 6 weeks, they'd exchanged maybe a dozen messages. An in-person meeting meant something had changed. The next day, she arrived 15 minutes early, nervous. The garden was beautiful despite December cold, bronze sculptures among bare trees. Rodin's Thinker dominated the space. Antonio appeared precisely at 2, wearing a long black coat and carrying a leather folder. He looked tired, older. "Walk with me," he said without preamble. They moved through the garden slowly. To any observer, just another couple enjoying the museum. "There's been a development," Antonio began. "The Calabrese family knows you're alive. They don't know where, but they know I helped someone disappear. They're actively looking. Claire's stomach dropped. How did they find out? Someone talked. One of my men bought or intimidated, but they know enough to be dangerous. He stopped in front of Paolo and Francesca, doomed lovers from Dante's Inferno. You need to be more careful. No more lectures. No more routine patterns. Vary your route, your schedule, everything. For how long? Until I find who's leaking information. Could be days, could be months. He handed her the folder. Inside is documentation for a backup identity and apartment in Brussels. If something happens, if I tell you to run, or if you see any indication you've been compromised, you go to Brussels. Don't tell anyone, don't pack, just go. Money, keys, everything you need. Claire took the folder with shaking hands. This is really happening. They really want to kill me. They want to use you to hurt me, which is worse. Your leverage. In my world, leverage is everything. He met her eyes with genuine concern. I'm sorry I brought you into this. If I'd known that meeting was compromised, you gave me a choice. You didn't have to. No, I didn't, but I'm a sentimental fool sometimes. That's gotten me into more trouble than you can imagine. They continued walking. Claire studied his profile, strong jaw, silver hair, lines suggesting both laughter and sorrow. Handsome in the way powerful men often are, but something else made her want to understand who he'd been before. Can I ask something personal? You can ask. You mentioned a wife. The apartment belonged to her aunt. My wife died 11 years ago, cancer. She was the only person who knew every dark thing about me and loved me anyway. After she passed, I threw myself into work because grief and guilt are expensive luxuries in my world. He paused by a fountain. She would have liked you. She had a soft spot for strays. I'm a stray? We all are, just trying to find somewhere we belong. He checked his watch. I need to go. Meeting in the 6th arrondissement. Remember, no patterns, no risks. If anything feels wrong, even slightly, contact me immediately. Understand? I understand. Good. He started to leave, then turned back. The lecture you missed today, Caravaggio and chiaroscuro. Dr. Beaumont gives it again next month, after things calm down. Don't miss it. Best one in her series. He walked away, leaving her alone among Rodin's tortured sculptures. She watched until he disappeared, then opened the folder. Inside was a Belgian passport for Emma Rousseau, an address in Brussels, bank information, and $10,000 in cash. A note in Antonio's handwriting. Trust your instincts. They've kept you alive this long. Claire walked back through the garden, memorizing every detail of her backup identity, understanding that the fragile peace of the past 6 weeks had shattered. She was no longer safely invisible. She was a target. That night she changed her routine completely. Instead of her usual route, she took the metro to a random stop, walked through unfamiliar neighborhoods before circling back. She checked constantly for followers. In her apartment, she packed a small bag with essentials and placed it by the door. Marie appeared the next morning, unannounced. Antonio told me about the meeting. You're handling this well. I don't feel like I'm handling anything. I feel terrified. Good. Fear keeps you alert. Complacency kills. Marie set a small device on the table. Panic button. Keep it with you always. If you press it, Antonio's security team will know your location within seconds. They'll extract you if necessary. Extract me like I'm a spy? You're more valuable than you realize, not just as leverage against Antonio, but as a witness to that meeting. The Calabrese family would pay dearly for information about who was there, what was discussed. They'd torture you for days. Claire felt sick. I barely remember. Doesn't matter what you actually know, matters what they think you know. Marie's expression softened. You're stronger than you realize. Most people in your situation would have fallen apart weeks ago. You've learned a new identity, a new language, adapted to a completely different life. That takes remarkable resilience. After Marie left, Claire tried to study, but concentration was impossible. Every sound made her jump. Every passerby seemed suspicious. The beautiful apartment that had felt like sanctuary now felt like a cage. Her phone buzzed. "Lucas, haven't seen you at lectures. Everything okay?" She shouldn't respond. But Lucas was just a friendly student. Family emergency. Had to miss some classes. Will try to make the next one. "Sorry to hear that. Let me know if you need anything." She put the phone down, feeling guilty about the lie, but understanding it was necessary. Everything in her new life was a lie. Her name, her background, her purpose. What was one more small deception? That night, she dreamed of the restaurant, walking into that office, seeing the table covered in money and weapons, Antonio's eyes fixing on her. But in the dream, when he offered her a choice, she ran. She ran through endless corridors, hearing gunshots behind her, knowing she'd never escape. She woke in darkness, heart pounding, and reached for the panic button. She didn't press it, just held it, drawing comfort from its weight, from knowing someone was watching. Someone would come if she needed help. Paris outside was silent, the pre-dawn quiet before the city wakes. Claire got up and made coffee, standing at the window as the sky gradually lightened. She thought about Antonio, walking through the sculpture garden, looking at Paolo and Francesca, those doomed lovers who chose passion over safety. Was that what she'd done? Chosen survival over safety and ended up trapped in someone else's hell? But no, Antonio had given her options when he could have killed her. He was keeping her safe at considerable personal risk. Whatever his motivations, he'd shown her more mercy than life ever had. She just had to stay alive long enough to figure out what came next. December brought cold rain and shorter days. Claire stopped attending lectures entirely, spending most days in the apartment, studying French and art history, occasionally venturing out for groceries at random times. The panic button stayed in her pocket, constant reminder of danger she couldn't see but knew was real. Antonio texted occasionally, brief check-ins, instructions to vary her patterns, once a link to a news article about a territorial dispute between crime families that had left 3 men dead in Brooklyn. The message was clear. The situation was escalating. Marie visited less frequently, always with new documents or emergency protocols. Antonio's tracing the leak. He has suspects, but needs proof before he can act. You can't just accuse someone of betrayal without evidence. It starts wars. How long until he finds proof? Days, weeks, impossible to say. These things have their own timeline. Marie studied Claire. "You're holding up better than I expected. Most people would be climbing the walls. I've spent most of my life trapped one way or another. This is just a different kind of cage." Christmas approached. Paris filled with tourists and decorations. The street below hosted a small market, vendors selling mulled wine and roasted chestnuts. Claire watched from her window, longing to join the crowds. Her emergency phone rang. "Merry Christmas," Antonio said, voices audible in the background, the clink of glasses. "I'm sorry you're spending the holidays alone. Where are you?" "Sicily, family obligations, even criminals have traditions." His voice dropped lower. "I wanted to tell you, we found the leak. One of my lieutenants, Marco, was being blackmailed by the Calabrese family. They had evidence of financial improprieties, threatened to destroy his family's reputation. The man from the restaurant, the one with the scar. Good memory. Yes, Marco. He's been feeding them information about my operations, my movements, and yes, about you. But he didn't know where you were. I kept that information strictly compartmentalized." "What happens to him?" Long pause. "He's being dealt with. I can't give details, but the leak is plugged. The Calabrese family will be sending a message soon, probably through intermediaries, but this phase of the conflict is ending. Does that mean I can go home? Where's home, Claire? New York, where the Calabrese family still watches every corner. Back to the Bronx, to a life that barely kept you alive. His voice was gentle but firm. You can't go back. That life is gone. The question is, where do you want to go forward? Claire sank onto the sofa, the weight of those words crushing her. She'd known theoretically that her old life was over, but hearing Antonio say it plainly made it real. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know what I want. Then take time to figure it out. Stay in Paris, finish your degree, Claire Martin's degree. Become an art historian, or go somewhere else entirely. I have properties in Rome, Barcelona, Lisbon. You could start fresh anywhere, just not New York. Never New York. After he hung up, Claire sat in darkness, Christmas lights from the street market casting coloured shadows. She thought about the waitress she'd been, struggling, barely surviving, invisible in a city of millions. And now? Now she had a beautiful apartment, a new identity, the possibility of real education. All it had cost was everything she used to be. A text from Lucas. Merry Christmas. If you're in Paris and not with family, some of us are meeting at a bar in Saint-Germain. You'd be welcome. She stared at the invitation. Marie would disapprove. Antonio would probably advise against it. But it was Christmas, and she was lonely, and Lucas had been nothing but kind. Which bar? She texted back. An hour later, she was in a crowded, warm pub, surrounded by other international students spending holidays far from home. Lucas introduced her around, a German studying architecture, a Canadian working on her Impressionism thesis, an Australian who spoke terrible French but told excellent jokes. They drank wine, ate cheese, sang half-remembered carols in multiple languages. For a few hours, Claire forgot to be afraid. She was just another graduate student, enjoying companionship of people who understood the strange isolation of being foreign in a beautiful city. Lucas walked her partway home, keeping respectful distance. Thanks for coming. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure either, but I'm glad I did. You're very mysterious. Never talk about family, background, always deflecting. Claire's guard went up. I'm just private. I get it. Bad breakup, family drama, everyone's running from something. He smiled kindly. I'm running from parental expectations. They wanted me to be a lawyer. Instead, I'm in Paris studying art restoration and disappointing everyone magnificently. Not everyone, you're really talented. Thanks, that means a lot. He paused at a corner. This is where I turn off. Get home safe, Claire. Happy Christmas. She watched him walk away, then continued toward her apartment, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. The simple act of being normal, of having a conversation that wasn't about survival, had been healing. When she got home, there was a package by her door, wrapped in elegant paper with a small card. She brought it inside and opened it carefully. Inside was a beautiful art history book about the Medici family and Renaissance patronage, first edition, probably worth thousands. The card read, Every good graduate student needs proper research materials. Stay safe. A. Claire held the book, running her fingers over the embossed cover, and felt tears prick her eyes. Antonio had given her safety, a new life, education, and now this, a gift that showed he understood who she was becoming, not just who she'd been. She sat by the window with the book, reading about the Medici princes who'd funded Botticelli and Michelangelo, who'd turned Florence into the cultural capital of Europe. They'd been powerful, dangerous men who'd changed the world through a combination of ruthlessness and vision. Not so different from Antonio Marcelli, A man who operated in shadows, but appreciated beauty. Who killed when necessary, but showed mercy when he could. Who'd taken a frightened waitress and given her the chance to become something more. Claire fell asleep in the chair, the book in her lap, Christmas lights twinkling outside, and for the first time since that terrible day in New York, she felt something close to peace. Winter passed slowly. Claire remained mostly isolated, venturing out only for necessities, always varying routes. Marie's visits became less frequent as Antonio's investigation concluded. The Calabrese family, weakened by internal conflicts and Antonio's strategic response, eventually reached an accommodation, not peace, but tense détente, that allowed both organizations to operate without open warfare. By February, Antonio called again. "It's done. The Calabrese family has agreed to leave you alone. You're no longer a target." Claire's hand tightened on the phone. What changed? "Let's say I provided them with information that made pursuing you more trouble than it was worth. And I eliminated the people on my side who knew about you. As far as anyone knows, the waitress who saw the meeting died months ago in an unrelated incident. So I'm free. You're safe, which isn't quite the same. You can resume normal activities, lectures, social life, whatever Claire Martin would do. But you can never be Sofia Russo again. That bridge is burned. Do you understand?" "I understand." And she did. Sofia Russo had been struggling, barely surviving, trapped. Claire Martin had possibilities, education, a life worth living. "I think I want to stay in Paris, finish the degree for real." "Good choice. Marie will help you officially enroll at the Sorbonne for spring term. You'll be a real graduate student, not just a cover story. Your stipend continues until you graduate." "Antonio, why are you doing all this? I'm nobody. I'm not worth—" "You're worth exactly as much as any other human being trying to survive in a world that chews people up. Maybe I'm getting old, maybe I'm tired of the violence, or maybe I just wanted to see if I could save someone without destroying them. Does it matter? It matters to me. Then accept it as a gift. And maybe someday, if you can, do the same for someone else. That's how we change the world, one small act of mercy at a time." After he hung up, Claire stood at her window looking out at Paris in winter. The city stretched before her, full of possibilities. She thought about enrolling at the Sorbonne for real, about completing her degree, about maybe teaching art history someday. She thought about the girl who'd walked into the wrong room carrying espressos, and the woman she'd become, stronger, smarter, more resilient than she'd ever imagined. And she thought about Antonio Marcelli, a dangerous man who'd shown her that mercy and violence could exist in the same heart, that choices mattered more than circumstances, and that sometimes the person you least expect becomes your unlikely savior. Claire Martin had a future now. All she had to do was live it. Spring came to Paris with cherry blossoms and longer days. Claire officially enrolled at the Sorbonne, attending lectures openly, making friends with other students, participating in seminars. Lucas became a genuine friend, nothing romantic, just two people who loved art. Dr. Beaumont noticed Claire's insightful questions and invited her to assist with research on Florentine patronage networks. The work was challenging and fulfilling, exactly what Claire had always dreamed of. Marie visited occasionally, now as a friend rather than a handler. They'd have coffee and talk about art, politics, life. The emergency phone sat unused in a drawer. Antonio sent occasional texts, checking in, asking about her studies, once sending a photo of a Caravaggio he'd seen in Rome with the message, "Thought you'd appreciate this. Your paper on Baroque lighting techniques was excellent, by the way. Marie sent me a copy." "You read my paper?" Claire texted back, surprised. I read everything about the people I care about. Old habit. That simple admission that Antonio Marcelli cared about her meant more than Claire could express. Not in a romantic way, but something deeper. He'd taken responsibility for her survival and now for her thriving. One warm April afternoon, Claire sat at a cafe in Saint-Germain, reviewing research notes for Dr. Beaumont. Lucas joined her, bringing croissants and coffee. "You look happy," he observed. Claire realized he was right. She did feel happy. For the first time in her life, she was doing work she loved, surrounded by people who respected her, living in one of the most beautiful cities in the world. "I am happy," she admitted. "Good. You deserve it." Lucas bit into his croissant. "You know, when I first met you, you seemed haunted, like you were running from something. But lately you seem more present, like you finally found where you belong." Claire smiled. "Maybe I did." That night, she sent Antonio a simple message. "Thank you for everything." His response came hours later. "You did the hard part. You survived, adapted, thrived. I just gave you the opportunity. What you made of it was all you." Claire looked out at the Paris skyline, the Eiffel Tower glittering against the twilight. She thought about all the versions of herself she'd been. Sophia the waitress, Claire the fugitive, Claire the graduate student. All those women were her, pieces of a whole. She'd lost one life and gained another. She'd been given a choice when she could have simply been eliminated, and she'd made something beautiful from that impossible gift. In the distance, church bells rang, marking the hour. Claire closed her laptop and decided to take a walk through the Marais, through the winding streets that had become home. Tomorrow she had a lecture to attend, research to complete, a paper to write. Tomorrow she'd continue building the life Antonio had made possible. But tonight she was just Claire Martin, a woman in Paris, grateful for second chances and the strange, beautiful mercy of a man who understood that sometimes saving one person could redeem 1,000 sins. She walked through the evening streets, past couples holding hands and children eating gelato, past bookshops and cafes and ancient buildings that had witnessed centuries of human drama. And for the first time in her 26 years, Claire felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The future stretched before her, uncertain but full of possibility. And that was enough.